Yo, what's up, you guys? We're here on the Ryan Allen Bell Show with Matt Karamazov. What's up, bro? How are you?
There we go. Hey, what's going on? Glad
Dude,
to glad to be here.
dude, I'm pumped you're here, bro. And very, very excited to get into your story, your brand, and really create a safe environment where we could like really impact my audience and like what you're doing specifically when it comes to personal development. So I want to go ahead and start with a quick overview of like what we're doing here with human-based marketing and kind of get your opinion on it. So like I have a belief, and I believe right now like the best way that we could help someone go from A to B to bridge the gap from like the information age to the golden age is through a concept called human-based marketing. And essentially what that is like, yes, recognizing technology and AI, but realizing that, hey, we have to go back to building genuine relationships, like building, nurturing, refining our network, our relationships. And so let's start with that, bro. And it's like, what are your thoughts on using human-based marketing to bridge the gap from the information age to the golden age? And like, yeah, and we'll start there, bro.
Well, you know what? I'm going to launch right into a book recommendation, and
Let's go.
it's called The Obvious Choice by my friend Jonathan Goodman. And the sort of tagline for that book is that algorithms change and human beings don't. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, like Instagram's going to change if it's still going to be around. I mean, I would imagine, but there's going to be tons of platforms coming and going, marketing strategies and like traffic, things that are going to start working and stop working. Like everything's going to change. You got to keep up with it. But, human beings, like people, they're not going to change, right? They're always going to want the same things, and you can't sell to a whole bunch of people. Like you just sell to one person at a time, right? And,
Yeah.
they all want the same things. Their variations, that'll change like on the specific level, varies by person. But, those three big wealth categories, or those three categories, right? Health, wealth, and relationships, like if, what do we want that's not one of those things, right?
Yeah.
So, you know,
It makes sense, bro. It makes me think because I've done some deep work on branding, and it's like human beings, we're operating from like a 10,000-year-old like ingrained mindset of like just our psychology, our belief systems is like how can we communicate at that level at like I don't even know how you would explain it, but just at like such a primitive like way of thinking and doing things. Like we still have to communicate at that deep level. It's like at a deep like human based level, you know?
yeah. Well, and it happens, person to person too. Like you said, like one of the, again, more of like a tagline that keeps coming up in our work, I guess. Conversions happen in conversations, right?
Mm,
So it's
mm,
you actually like talk to people who might want what you have to offer, right? And who could benefit from what you do, right? And you got to talk to people, right?
yeah.
It's social media,
Yes, for
and
real. We have to
and
be
then that
social and social
exactly
media.
right. And like
Yeah.
it's just being a cool person, like being cool to people is so underrated as like a marketing or business strategy. It's not even a strategy, right? It's just like a better way to go through life, right? And it's one of my favorite quotes, basically of all time. It's from years and years ago. I first read this by Zig Ziglar, who also has the greatest name in personal development
He does, right?
by far, Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
But he says you can get anything you want in life as long as you help enough other people get what they want. And that's like a guiding principle of my
Mm,
life and work.
yeah.
And I found that to be so true. Like there's nothing that I want that I can't get just as long as I help enough other people to
Yeah.
get what they want. And it's usually going to
Yeah.
be in one of those three things, right? So,
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was rereading How to Win Friends and Influence People last night,
classic.
and like one of the principles is like create an eager want in someone else. Is like, what do they want? It's not what we want; it's what they want.
Yeah.
Help them get what they want.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories from that book is Dale Carnegie was at this party in New York. This like socialite lady was talking to him for, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, and he basically didn't say much. He spent about 10% of the time talking and 90% of the time listening. And he heard days later that this woman said about him later on that he was a fantastic conversationalist,
Yeah,
even though
yeah,
he didn't even say anything. He was just
yeah,
listening, right?
yeah.
It's
So true.
yeah, it's funny how that works.
For sure, bro. Dude, so like for those that don't know, you have an incredible brand. We connect on Instagram, and you've made your thing books, like personal
I
development,
have.
and it's a huge passion of mine. Like I have maybe like for sure well over 100 books. I have 3 different libraries here in my home.
Love it.
like over 100 books that I'm listening to on Audible. And so like, what's your story behind that, bro? Like, how did you get into just going this deep with reading, this deep with personal development, and like how it transitioned into you, like building a business with it, bro?
Sure. One thing before I do that, and it was just a social media post that I saw today by another friend of mine, Jason Fox. He's this coach, does really, really, really well. And his post basically went, I was talking to this guy who's making, $600,000 a month or something like that, or some stupid number,
Yeah.
stupid amount per month, right? And every sentence out of his mouth, or out of the guy he was talking to, out of his mouth was like, well, I was reading this book, or I was listening to this podcast, or I was doing something, or I was taking this course, and like it was every sentence like that, right? So man, learning, just reading, it's one of those common denominators, right? And certainly in my life, and I'll just take a few seconds
Yeah.
to talk about it. Basically, I mean, the best kind of soundbite for what I've done is ever since 2014, I've been listing every single book that I've, and so ever since that, so 2014, that's 11 years, I've read close to 1,400 books, and that's 100 books a year, every single year for the last decade, right? And complete notes, summaries for all of them. So yeah, books are my thing, it's safe to say.
Yeah.
And when I started doing that, I was working a minimum wage security job, actually two minimum wage security jobs, which I happen to love. Both of them. I mean, one was more fun than the other, but they were both good for different things. One, I was working as a nightclub bouncer on the weekends. And believe it or not, I'd still get some reading done when I was there. Like before the bar would get busy, I have like 5 different book apps on my phone. I'd be reading, or I'd be just talking to my friends, kind of just hanging out. But reading a lot, especially on the slower nights. I always have a book going. I had coffee in one hand and a book in the other. So did that for like years and years and years. And then the other security job, again, not much money at all. It was overnight security at a hospital. And I would show up every single night for my 12-hour shifts, between 3 and 5 nights a week. Yeah. I worked a lot.
Yeah.
But I'd have a tray of coffees and a stack of books. And, overnight, I barely did any work, just because there was nothing to do, right? Like, it was overnight, nothing happening. You have a lot of downtime, right? And that was intentional. Like, I stayed at that job for so long because I had, 6, 7, sometimes 10 hours of reading time per night, just hanging out. And that was another just fantastic job. I'd go to like a different part of the hospital where like nobody was there.
Yeah.
I'd read for like hours and hours and hours. So I read hundreds of books, and basically, every book that I finished, it's just it opened up kind of new pathways for things that I now knew that I didn't know. You know what I mean? So like one book leads to 2, and then 2 leads to 4, and then 4 leads to like 15, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's funny, like you have to know a lot before you start to realize how little that you actually know, right?
For sure.
So
a wise man knows that he knows nothing, right?
Exactly, right? Socrates, yeah. So, it just kind of expanded outwards. And, for the last few years, I've been kind of, publishing my thoughts and publishing my book notes and things like that online. But I really didn't start taking it seriously until about a few years ago. And really, really seriously last couple of years when I went full-time. I transitioned full-time.
Cool.
All I do is read books all day and talk about them on the internet. I've got a bunch of different revenue streams that support my business, that growing every single month. And I don't have to do anything else. Like I don't have to leave my house except to go to the gym if I don't want to. Groceries.
Yep.
That's no boss. I don't answer to anyone. All I do is read books. Extract all the knowledge, wisdom I can, share it with people who are dying to hear it, dying to learn from them. So I've built an entire career from that. So that may have been a longer kind of explanation of my journey than you wanted. But
no, that's great, bro. That's great, man. It's just it's rare to find people that love personal development as much as you and I. And you're even like deeper in it than I am. I thought I was reading a lot. I've probably read maybe like 250 books, but you said
nice.
How many?
That's huge.
Yeah, like 1,400, right?
Yeah, just under 1,400. So I have a list of all of them that I add to every time I finish a book. I'm at 1,362 at the time of recording this. So
see, you inspire me, bro. Now I want to keep a list.
I loved it. I love to hear that. You know what? I think you should. And like,
Yeah.
it's not for everybody. And obviously, it's just a vanity metric too. I mean, number of
Yeah.
books read doesn't mean anything. But
Yeah.
I find it motivating. To keep track and kind of see that number go up and up. And there's a whole bunch of reasons to do it. But
Yeah.
I would say, like, if there's somebody listening that doesn't really want to track the number of books that you read, like, you don't have to. Like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Right?
For
So
sure.
like what I always say, like if it's gonna like negatively impact your love of reading, then just don't do it.
Yep.
That even goes for the kinds of books that you choose to read. Just because I recommend a book or I think it's fantastic, if it doesn't speak to you, if you don't have any interest in that, don't read it. Go read something else.
Yeah.
There's
For
tons
sure.
of great books out there.
I remember when I first got involved into network marketing, my first mentor, he recommended a book, and I was never into personal development. And I read this book, and I was like, it changed my whole philosophy on how I perceive the world. And I was like, oh my gosh, like where have I been my whole life not reading books? And that's what initiated it for me. And that was in 2012.
Which book was this?
This was called GoPro, and it's by Eric Worre. It's for the network marketing profession, and so it's specifically in our profession. And he earned like $15 million from like a home-based business, and then he wrote a tiny little book on how to do the same thing. And I was like, man, it just really shifted my perspective, and that was the catalyst to me falling in love with personal development. Just one
Nice.
book. So what would you say for like anyone listening on here? Maybe they want to get involved in reading more personal development, but they don't yet have the desire to start picking up books. Like, what could you say that could really, bridge the gap to help them like, oh, maybe I should start reading more than I do right now?
Yeah, well, there's a great quote, and it's not one of mine, but I heard it from my friend Alex, and I think it's his. He might have gotten it from someone else, but anyway, what he says is that read what you love until you love to read.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like there's something out there that you'll like.
Yeah.
And once you find what that is, just read that.
Yeah.
You can ignore all of the 100 books to read before you die lists or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Or like books to be considered well read, like that. Sure, like they're fine as far as they go, but just read what you like.
Man.
And once you actually enjoy reading, like once you build that habit, you get maybe like 5-10 books that you really liked, and then you're just like, man, I'm really into this reading thing.
Yeah.
I wonder
for
what's
sure.
next. Ideally, you should feel good while you're reading, or like it's helping you, like you're moving forward. Like as much as you can associate positive, good feelings with reading. If it feels like a chore, if it feels like some sort of dreadful obligation, then you're just not going to want to do it, right? But if it feels good, like if it's the best part of your day, then you're just going to want to do more of it, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because if I think about my library, I would say maybe 25 to maybe like 25% are like actual like business books, like strategy, marketing, sales, branding, stuff like that. But the other 75% are mindset stuff. And it was like, it's like, wow, like I actually, now that I'm just like kind of just like thinking about it, is like, that's what lights me up. I get excited to read about mindset stuff. And so that's what I keep pursuing. And so just kind of like your quote that you shared is just like, read what you like, and until you love to read, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mindset stuff gets a kind of a bad rap, but like that's where everything
Yeah.
begins, like in
Yeah.
here first.
Yep.
Like it's
For sure.
it's a success in anything is an inside job for sure.
Yeah, definitely, bro.
And like there are people who like only have mindset to teach, right? They're just like kind of regurgitating like just something that they heard. So like like we all know like charlatans and scammers or whatever, but then like you find someone who's really really good at this mindset stuff, and just who's actually used it to like create real world results, then yeah, and there are tons of people like that. You just kind of ignore the
For sure, ignore the scammers. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you get a DM that's like, hey, what's your Bitcoin address? Like, just ignore those people.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got into books. That you started from your own passion yourself, and then you start putting it on social media, and then you realize, okay, like people are into this, and your brand is growing. They're getting value, you're getting value. So where maybe you could help bridge the gap between you're working these jobs, and then now you're full time. You said you quit like your jobs like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe you could go into like the business side, as like, how were you able to monetize this in ways for like the listeners? Because they're thinking, how can I go out and literally do what you're doing, work from home, earn an
That's it.
income, not
Yeah.
have to go to a job anymore if I choose not to? Like, how can I create income pursuing a passion like this? So where was that for you?
Yeah. Yeah. This is an interesting one because there are going to be as many different answers as there are people. So you really have
Mm,
to kind of like, but an exercise I found really, really just extremely helpful myself is actually running the numbers. I mean, running the numbers is so underrated when it comes to like realizing when you can go full time, what to
yeah.
sort of double down on. Just and specifically here, just run the numbers for how much you need to be earning per month, per year, whatever. In order to feel comfortable, or to be able to support your lifestyle, things like that, to be able to go all in, right? To burn the boats
Yeah.
and just kind of do it full time, right? And some people want and this is a good idea to have like a few months backup plan, right? If you make $0 in your business for like 6 months straight, which is very, very unlikely if you're really kind of really going hard, but
Hmm.
you should be fine for however long you feel comfortable with, right? And some people,
Yeah.
different risk tolerance, right? So some people would have to have like a full year set aside. They're like, okay, I'm good if I have a full year. Now I can do it. And then some people will just be like, if I can survive the next month, like I'll figure it out. So
Yeah,
it's like
for
you
sure.
gotta you,
Yeah.
you gotta decide which person that is, right? Or which person you are. So for myself, like it wasn't very much, and this isn't gonna sound like a whole lot, but it was about $2,000 a month in the very
Mm,
beginning that I needed to
yeah.
basically not do anything. And this was
So
car
cool.
payment, just like
Yep.
grocery, just like all the regular life stuff. But I really didn't need much. Now this wasn't like I wasn't going on vacations. I wasn't like just going out all the time to dinner or whatever. This was like me basically locking myself in a room building this business, right?
Yeah.
And that was a good couple of years. Right. So I don't want to, I mean, as much as mindset stuff is really important, there's at a certain point, it all comes down to just exactly that, just locking yourself down in a room and saying, I'm going to do this no matter what. And like, I'm going to make it. Like lots of people don't, most
Yeah.
people like won't, but I will. And that's exactly what I brought to it. So running the numbers super important, like how much you actually need. And I mean, people have a family, like or like they live in like a high rent, neighborhood or city. Like their number is going to be a lot higher, and it
Yep.
might take them a little bit longer to go full time, right? But yeah, and it's funny. There's so many different things. So I have several different revenue streams, and I found that super helpful because I build them all up kind of simultaneously, and they
Yeah.
all, if one dips a little bit, I have the other ones that kind of make up the difference. But at the same time, it's funny how there's no one answer. So at the same time, a lot of people go wrong by having like 10 different revenue streams and then not really doing much with any of them because they're so distracted because they're trying to like,
Yeah.
shift their attention, right? So it for some people, it can be the better strategy to just have like one or two baskets and just like watch those two baskets, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so with me, everything kind of like it sounds like I have a lot of different things going on, but they kind of all reinforce each other. So like one of my revenue streams is my newsletter.
Hmm.
It's where I just share all my book recommendations. But my newsletter gets turned into Medium articles. It makes me some money per month.
Hmm.
Some people sign up to like my Patreon from my newsletter.
Hmm.
That's another thing. I turn newsletters into YouTube videos, scripts, right?
Yeah.
And just things like that, right? And then
Wow.
the newsletter kind of like I work with authors to help promote their books. So to my 155 or 160,000 person audience, right? People like authors, pay me to recommend their books, provided they're actually good books. So having the newsletter and having all this stuff helps me generate that business, right? So
Man.
they're all kind of working together. It's not like I'm doing, books and drop shipping and I have an
Yeah. Yeah.
agency. Like I'm not doing a whole bunch of
No.
different things. I'm doing like different variations of one thing. Like it all comes back
Yeah.
to books, right? And I'm like that's my basket.
Yep.
So
Yeah. It's like Andrew
yeah,
Carnegie said that. It's like figure out your one thing, your one basket, and make sure no one knocks it over. You know?
exactly. He's a very
Yeah.
smart dude, and built a ton of libraries, like 10,000
Yeah.
libraries or something
Yeah.
stupid like that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I love Carnegie.
Yeah. Dude, it's cool that you actually, and thank you for sharing all that, by the way, because it's cool because like you're giving the listeners an actual practical way to look at this is like you built it all within your personal brand. So like that's your personal brand, and you found ways to monetize within your personal brand. Let's say someone is not earning any income yet and they want to start to monetize. Where would you say is a good first step? The newsletter maybe, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, a couple thoughts on that. So for one thing, the first dollar online that you make, and I'm sure you can probably attest to this too, like first dollar changes everything, because then you know it's possible. It's like, all right, I've made like some stranger over the internet has paid me money for this thing that I've delivered, this thing that I've provided. And if you can make $1, you can make $10,000, right? And it's just you scale over time. So get that, like that, again, mindset shift, like that confidence, that belief system, right? That, this is real. I can do this, right? And now I'm up over $5,000 per month. And, my next revenue goal by July is 10K per month, right? And again, like it's like very easily doable. So yeah, run the numbers. Yeah, first dollar online for sure. There are definitely different ways to monetize that are easier than others. I wouldn't obsess over scale too much. I basically worry about cash flow in the beginning and just basically generating money, because like no business ever like went out of business by making money.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Your website can be ugly, and you can have fewer than a couple thousand followers, and you can still make money. Right.
Yeah.
Like those things aren't going to move the needle. Right. So it has to be like, there's another excellent book called The 10 Pillars of Wealth by Alex Becker, who just sold his software company for like $100 million. Right.
Let's go, Alex.
Right. And one of the main lessons for that book, I read it twice, focus on the things that actually get you paid. Right.
Yeah.
And so like that is that's what I do every single day. I do I work on the things that get me paid first before I, update my website or my bio or change my brand colors or something, right?
So. Yeah, that's wise. Yeah. The belief check, I call that the belief check, which is the first check. And like I coached my team on that. I was like, hey, let's help you get your belief check, So yeah, good advice, bro. So I'm curious, how has like building a network helped you like succeed with your personal brand and just your life overall?
Oh man, yeah, it's everything. It's the people for sure. It's also the people who know you. So social proof, on its own is huge. Yeah, just. Man, everything. It's getting to the point now where, I've worked with authors on their first book and they're coming back to me, for their second book. Right. And, like that's just when you stay with it for a long, long time, that starts to happen. Right. And, when you or just over deliver. Again, this is a Brian Tracy thing. I've read, more than a dozen of his books. He's fantastic. But he basically recommends just, do more than that for which you're paid, right? Like over deliver on expectations. And like if you do that for long enough, it becomes like very, very hard to lose, right? And it just for long enough, I guess, is the operative word there, right?
Yep.
And for me, I mean, not like 6 months, not a year and a half, like years and years and years. And, this reputation, this network, it starts to compound. And how I like to put it, you're stacking the probabilities in your favor with the positive actions that you're taking.
Yeah. It makes sense, bro, because like even the fact that we connected is like we've both have built our own success in some way, shape, or form. And yet like the work that you're doing is like you're helping my audience, bro. It's just, and so it goes both ways.
I hope so.
Like, yeah, no, most definitely. Well, you even said it is like, that's one of the 16 laws of success is do more than what you're paid for, So if you just keep doing that long enough consistently until you succeed, bro, So I love what you said, because it like connects the dots to do that within your network though. Just like building the relationships, it's just like, how can we serve people more consistently?
Yeah. And like there's like super practical things that you can do as well, that I do as well. Like I literally keep a list of all of the people that are, major people, like major parts of my network that I want to keep in touch with, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's the simplest thing in the world, just a list of people that you want to keep up with, right? But I have basically I keep it in a Google Doc, right? And their social media profiles are linked. I'll have like their email address so I can look that up. Maybe the last thing we talked about, or something that they're working on, right? And so every day, every couple of days, every little while, I'll go through that list, and maybe something will come up that I see that my friend Eric, he's looking to get on podcasts. So I'm like, okay, so who do I know is a podcaster, right? And it's just like like that, and just things like that, and just getting in touch with people when you don't need something,
Yeah, 100%, 100%,
or
bro.
to like. to celebrate other people's successes and wins. Like somebody has like a $50,000 month, just say, man, I saw you did fantastic. Like that's huge.
Yeah.
My friend Sam Ocean, he's got a YouTube agency, and he's one of the best marketers around. I love this guy to death, and he's just great. And it can be the simplest thing. I just responded to his newsletter last night. He was sharing a win that one of his team members got, and I just super quick response, say like, that's an awesome win, or just something like that, right? And just these little communications, and it doesn't take much. Just keep up with people, and celebrate their successes, help them out when you can, be available, and and one thing that I'm getting better at, actually, which is kind of what I had to work on, is asking for what you want. And like if you ask for what you want, you might actually get it.
Yep.
And I was kind of falling so far on the side of I always have to give. I always have to be the person that's giving to others. I would never ask for anything, right? And so I'm learning now to actually ask for what I want, and ask the people in my network for help, right? And if I see like, hey, this person could really help me out, I ask them for it. And I'm still not perfect at it. I'm still learning how to do that, but yeah.
One of my mentors, he's a billionaire, and he has a great way of explaining it. He says, you give, and then you receive. And then you give, you receive. And you give, you receive. You give, you receive. You receive. Then you give, then you receive. You receive. But he stacks the beginning of it by giving. If you give enough, you're eventually going to receive. It comes back to you. So good, bro. Oh, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, you and I both know, like, times are changing big time. Actually, I believe we're shifting to a different age, especially with like AI. A lot of people would consider this the golden age. That's kind of like my belief around it. So what would you say, based off of like the work that you're doing and what you're seeing around the world, is like, what would you say like the future of the 21st century looks like for us and humanity?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm like super optimistic about everything, as you might have guessed.
Same.
Right. And again, there's some like awesome books about that. The Anthology of Balaji, Eric Jorgensen wrote that, and the Almanac of Naval. And he's also working on an Elon Musk book. And it's basically a compilation of their wisdom and knowledge, right? And so these are all like super forward-looking people that are just, they see the good of what's coming up. And, these crazy medical advances that are either here now or coming very soon. One of Tony Robbins' latest books is about that, called Life Force. And how you can just like zap the cancer out of people's blood from like remotely or whatever. Just like all this stuff. It's like altering their genes to like turn off the genes for certain diseases and stuff like that is wild. And like some of those things are actually happening now, right? And it's just crazy. So I'm kind of optimistic. And then, there's a lot of dangers too, right? Mm-hmm. So Balaji, he's like super successful crypto investor. He's got a book. What's it called? The Sovereign State or something. The Network State. Sorry. Yes. Yeah, he said. I mean, he's the one sentence tagline for the future is more upside, more downside. So a lot of like really horrible things can happen, but a lot of really, really good things can happen too. And it's up to us right now to sort of to shift that direction to whichever way we want to go. And there are people working on both ends of that, right? And it's basically who's going to win out. And so, I mean, I like to be on the side of people who are trying to make the future better. And I think we have a real shot of doing that, right? And because that's what most people want. Most people don't want to just get angry at stuff all the time and just fight with people. Like this, like I'm not interested in that at all. I just want to just read books and work out and hang out with my friends and stack cash and just drive Lamborghinis, right? Like that's what I want.
Nice.
The future's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Speaking of cars, actually, this is what I think about a lot. Race car drivers, funny, I don't know much about racing, but I know this about racing. When they're in the race and they're about to hit a wall, they're headed toward the wall, they're going to crash, but they don't look at the wall, they look away from the wall. Yeah. They're looking at the direction they want to travel in, right? And you can do that in your own life. Don't stare at your problems. You acknowledge that the wall, your problems are very real. There's an obstacle there that you're going to have to deal with, but don't stare at the thing and obsess over it. Look at where you want to go. And again, that's a mindset thing. That's using the supercomputer on your shoulders to just build the life that you want, right? And like you do that like every single day. There's the number of thoughts that you have is there's a range, right? Some people say it's like 60,000 or 70,000 thoughts per day that people have.
Yep.
And, say it's 60,000. If you have 40,000 positive thoughts per day, eventually you're going to have a more positive life. And then you work on making it 41,000 positive thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Moving in that direction. And, more than not, you're stacking the probabilities in your favor.
Boom.
That's my philosophy. That's my,
Man.
I do.
Stacking positive thoughts, bro.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah.
And
I
positive actions too.
Yeah, definitely. Like I saw this term being a futurist, and I feel like I really resonated with that as like someone who's like looking towards the future,
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, bro. So for those listening, what's like the best advice you could give to someone on how to become a successful creator in the 21st century? If just like one piece of advice you could give.
Yeah, it's funny. There's so much, just so much like that I want to kind of like pass on. I guess in the very beginning, I would say, be willing to do the things that don't scale. Like answer every comment that you get. Like every YouTube comment, every Instagram comment, every DM. Somebody asks you a question. If you have like less than 1 million followers, then you probably have time to answer every single comment or question, provided that they're not like some like negative comment, right, or some jerk, right? But like that's going to be the rare exception. Like most people who comment on your stuff are going to be positive people that just they're looking to connect with you or they have a question, right? So for anybody who has like even myself, like you're never too big or too famous to be a jerk to some or to be nice to people, right? So like having a number of followers or what have you doesn't give you the right to treat people like shit. So do the things that don't scale. Again, focus on the things that get you paid for sure. Don't obsess over brand colors or website design.
Yeah.
Get a client, sell something, like make that first dollar and then make that first $1,000.
Yes.
I track the progression of all my revenue streams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like I have 5 major ones basically. And, my plan to get to 10K per month by July, which is eminently doable. Like it's almost a foregone conclusion, basically split up into those 5 revenue streams. And I have a detailed action plan for each one. And I just attack that action plan every single day, right?
Yeah.
I have this creatively titled consistency list. Mm-hmm. And it's my list of things that I have to do every single day to build up those revenue streams, right? And, every single day. So like you do that and like you do a whole bunch of the other things that we were talking about on the episode so far. And it's like, I don't see how somebody can not be wildly successful, like if they do that for long enough, right?
Yep.
So these are this is the sauce.
Yeah, the sauce. It's inevitable, bro. You have so much momentum. Like you're gonna get there. Yeah. So
momentum's huge too. I'm glad you mentioned that too, because it stacks up. Like it's a hockey stick, right? Like nothing happens and then everything happens.
Everything happens. Yeah. I usually like to ask, what's your favorite quote? But you already said that at the beginning. So my question is, what is your favorite book?
Oh man, I didn't know you were going to ask impossible questions.
Or maybe first one that comes to mind, I guess, because there's so many we could choose,
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I'll pick fiction and nonfiction. So fiction, let's see. I'll give top 3. Top 3 fiction would be The Count of Monte Cristo, Alexander Dumas. Yeah, it's a formative book in my life. Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. And let's see, maybe Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. Those are really, really good. Those are all like more difficult books, but like super rewarding.
Yeah.
Nonfiction and probably like extremely relevant to people listening. The Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco. And he's fantastic. A guy, I've read all of his books so far. Yeah. He was a guest on my podcast a little while ago.
Cool.
And I read The Millionaire Fastlane while sitting in my car working like another security job, minimum wage. And I think 2020, I finished The Millionaire Fastlane, and 2020 I bought my first Porsche. So that's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
Not a coincidence at all. Let's see. So that one for sure. There's another one, book that will really get you thinking. It's called The Revolution from Within by Jiddu Krishnamurti, one of my favorite people. And he was set up to be this almost like a cult leader, actually. And in the beginning. And he had a whole bunch of people that wanted him to lead this organization. And they're like, you're going to be this, they called him like the world teacher or whatever. And on the day that he was supposed to take over this organization and be the leader, he gave this speech called Truth is a Pathless Land. And in the speech, he said that you can't listen to anyone else when it comes to finding out what's true. You always have to basically question everything. You have to find out for yourself what you think, and no one can lead you to truth. Like truth is a pathless land. And he dissolved the organization. He said, "I don't want to be your world teacher or whatever the hell. Like I'm not your leader. You lead yourselves." It's called The Revolution from Within. It's fantastic.
Wow.
So yeah, those two books. I guess a third one. Let's see. Actually, okay. So one that speaking of the future, I got another philosophy book. It's called What We Owe the Future by William McCaskill, and he's a philosophy professor at Oxford. And it's basically about the idea that provided that humanity doesn't destroy itself, which it's probably not going to happen, but it could depending, right?
Yep.
Provided that doesn't happen, we could potentially have millions and millions of years of human future, right? That haven't happened yet. There could be trillions of people that don't exist yet, or that could be born in the future, and we could be their descendants, or we could be their ancestors. Sort of.
Yeah.
Right. And what are our responsibilities to those people? Like, what can we do now to kind of avert the dangers that we face, and to set those future generations up to have the best possible lives? And it's a fantastic, one of my absolute favorite books out of 1,400 books. So
sick, bro.
So yeah, those are just a bunch of random recommendations, but those are near the top. Like if someone were to ask me for recommendations, odds are I'd pick one of those books.
I gotta get on it, bro. Yeah, I need to.
They're so good.
I have hundreds of books to catch up on, man.
Yeah.
Dude, man, this has been very insightful, very valuable, even to myself. I know for sure the audience is gonna have a ton of takeaways.
Right on.
So to leave off, number one is there anything that you're promoting right now where you could continue giving this type of value to any of the listeners? Anything that you want them to get plugged into? And then secondly, where's the best place for them to get in touch with you at, bro?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, I mean, if you're into books and you want my best book recommendations, that's going to be my newsletter. It's called the Reading Life newsletter, and it goes out about 3 times a week. And I'm at 5,400 subscribers right now. So you'll be in a good group of book lovers, lifelong learners. I'll get my best book recommendations, share all my notes and summaries from all the best books that I'm reading and things like that. So bookish news. I lean sort of nonfiction, but I throw in some fiction in there too. And then for creators specifically, and educational content creators is who I help the best, because they're exactly like me. I've got my school community. It's called the Competitive Advantage. So that's basically where I'm every single day. And again, we've got maybe 50 people in there. They're all, educational content creators. And my promise there, like my offer there, is to bring them up to $5,000 per month. And some are up way past that already. One guy, one of our members, he just closed this he closed $7,000 in new business last month for a client of his in copywriting. And just a whole bunch of people like that. My friend Talon is I'm in his mastermind group and he's in mine, and he has an agent. He has a ghostwriting agency, made $400,000 last month, $100,000 last month. He's doing insanely well. So he's inside the community there. A whole bunch of successful entrepreneurs, creators, and that's where I am, personally helping out, sharing what's working now, what I'm doing, and basically getting people as close, as fast to $5K per month as possible. So yeah.
Amazing. Can they go to your website to find these resources, or where can they find them at?
Yeah. Website, Instagram, basically anywhere. You type in, Matt Karamazov, on Instagram, Twitter, basically anywhere. Or the Reading Life, Matt Karamazov School.
Sweet.
I'm around. So.
Yep. Cool. We'll put all the links below in the show notes, you guys. Well, great. Matt, I appreciate you, man, for bringing so much value, and looking forward to seeing you again, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, Ryan, and thanks very much for the invitation. I mean, this is what I love talking about, right? And it's funny, maybe you can settle this, or maybe you won't know either. But what we've just done, this podcast, is this work, or is this what was this? Are we working life right now, or are we just kind of hanging out? I don't know.
That's a good question, bro.
Right? Yeah. I don't know if this is part of my workday or a break from what I was doing. But I was reading, so I don't know.
Yeah, well,
I guess my whole day is a break.
Yeah, well, it's like we can set up our lives so it doesn't feel like work. We're literally living our life, building relationships, sharing our
Yeah.
knowledge. Like, you guys listening are getting value. Like, yeah, we can create a future like that. It's
Yeah.
pretty remarkable.
Yeah, man.
Cool. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you, bro.
All right. See you around.